putting some brake drums on these older Dana 70s isn't like doing it on your car or whatnot. Well, first you got to pull the tires off, done, and you got to take all these nuts off the end here. You know, that's when your old coffee can comes in handy, because the hub here, the brake drum, is actually mounted on the back side of the hub. Why they did it exactly like that, I don't know, but I'm not the engineer who built it. So first thing you got to do is get all the nuts off of the end of the axle shaft here, and then right on the stud in there, there's this little notched tapered collar. So in order to get that out, get yourself a hammer. There we go. Just take right on and tap the hub right there. You know, not too much, and you'll see it just jump out. Well, that one's being a little finicky, and it's kind of hard to hold the camera and do this. Try here. Oh, jumped out. Now this one jumped out. This one here. And then once they jump out, might be able to pull it. Otherwise, get a slotted screwdriver and pry them back. So I'm going to get that done and come back. Once you get all those guys off, then put a pan under it to catch the oil. And another thing is jack it up and get the axle sloped away from the side. Do one side at a time and slope it away. Otherwise, if this side's down, when you pull it out, you get a bunch of the oil run out. If it's up, it won't. And you just take and slide the shaft out like that. And there's this little locking tab in there. Pull that out, just take the little screwdriver and pry it back. And then you got to get in there and get the nut off right there. It's just pretty tight clearance to the hub, so you might be able to get it with a pair of channel locks, or you're going to need a big socket. I don't know what size that is, but something pretty big. So I'll get this out and take that nut off. And then you just pull the whole assembly off. Okay, I got that nut off, so I started to pull it, and this bearing will come out. That's someplace relatively clean. Just take and slide the whole works off. Get some oil running out of it, but screw it. And there you go. Now to get the hub apart from the drum, lay it on the floor like that. And get your hammer, and you know, get a good. You could put the lug nut on if you didn't want to hit the stud, you know, with the hammer, but just get a good square blow on it and knock the studs out. One more. And there you got the studs out. And then you take the hub out of the drum like that. And then the back side here is where the oil seal is. There's the other bearing. Now still in the drum is going to be this kind of cone shaped doohickey. Take the hammer handle and beating her up too bad. Take it back.
Well, now would be the time to replace the seal if you think it needs replacing. Never really leaked. I think it's fine. And this guy here, which I tapped out with the hammer handle, which sits in there like that. What the purpose of this is if this seal does leak, then instead of the oil running around inside the brake drum making their brakes ineffective, this thing will catch it and it'll channel it out here, and then it'll come out between the hub and the brake drum and just get on the inside of the rim. Well, anyway, new brake drum, which was dang near $80 a piece. Set this guy down. Take this cone, set her in there, get the hammer again, and gently tap it in. Try not to dent it up too bad. Okay, I'll take the old hub. Well, leave the hub like that, and then take the brake drum and flip her over on top of the hub like that. And you take all your studs, drop them back in. And then what I do is I just take a piece of steel or something and the hammer and take and whack the end of the rod with the hammer just to kind of get them set in there so it doesn't fall apart when you're putting it back on. And then one way to do it is you put a stack of washers on there and then tighten the lug nut down to pull the studs in. I just put the rim back on and make sure I torque it down real good. I can tell when they've bottomed out. So I'm going to take and knock those back in and then stick it back on. Okay, I got it back on there and put the nut back in. Well, technically, you got a socket on there and you put your torque wrench on there and you turn the hub while you torque that down to 120 foot-pounds, and then you stop and then you back the nut up 1/8 of a turn, so you have like 1/1000th of an inch of end play on the bearings. Well, that's important if you got new bearings or if you took the races out, because that makes sure everything's square and it deburrs the bearings. But since I didn't pull any of that out and it's the old bearings, it's not. All I've ever done is just take snug the nut down with the channel lock pliers and get them in there, snug them down, and then back up a hair just like you would if you were putting in a normal like trailer wheel bearing or something. And then I always run just a little ring of silicone, really light bead, you don't need a lot, around just inside of the holes on there, and slide that in, put the little cone shaped doohickeys and nuts back on there, and then you're supposed to torque them down to 90 foot-pounds. So that pretty well sums it up. So I'll slap it back together and clean it up, paint it black, paint the rest of the frame black, which I have half wire brushed, and put a box on it.